Hello, today we are working on page 3, or technically page 263 of your I Have a Dream speech by Martin Luther King. Some of the vocabulary words that you're going to see in there are this word tribulations. Tribulations means trouble or suffering. So make sure that in your notes you are in your vocabulary section, you are writing tribulations, trouble or suffering. That is going to be a word that you're going to need for the context of what the speech is talking about, as well as for some rhetorical devices. Okay. You can pause it here, or let's go on. After tribulations, we have redemptive. Redemptive. Redemptive means save someone. Oh, I need to fix that. Someone from error or evil, free of sin. So save someone from error or free of sin. Redemptive. You can pause it here for the next one, or we'll keep going. Oppressive. Oppressive means hardship or constraint causing depression. MLK, Martin Luther King, was oppressed. If you look at these pictures, I think they give you a good indication of what oppressive means. Make sure you have this written down. When we're done, we'll go on. You can pause it here. Okay, now you need to pull out your I Have a Dream speech. Please pause the video until everyone has this out. You're going to need to turn to page 263. Now that your speech is out, you'll also need to consider what you need to annotate. In fact, I have all 5 of these different tools out. You might want 2 or 3 if you use some highlighters or some colored pens or whichever. I've used several of them and I'm going to point them out. Please also keep in mind, before I get started, that these are my annotations. These are my notes, my thoughts. You are welcome to also write them, but if they don't mean anything to you and you don't understand them, do not write my notes. I would just be then cluttering your page with information that you don't understand. Make sure your notes are valuable to you. So let's get started. I'm on paragraph 12 at the top of page 263. We cannot turn back. Circle the word we. I did. I circled the word we because I already know that it is coming up ahead with a lot of repetition, as it was in our yesterday page 262 text. So we cannot turn back. MLK, Martin Luther King, is telling them to persevere. He is saying, let's keep going. We can't stop what we've already done. Paragraph 13. There are those who are asking the devotees of civil rights. Now, the devotees are those who believe in the cause, those who have devoted their time, their effort, their bodies in the case of brutality. Who are asking the devotees of civil rights, when will you be satisfied? Right there, by the way, that's a rhetorical question. There is no good answer that's going to make anyone happy here. When will you be satisfied? We can never be satisfied as long as the Negro is the victim of unspeakable horrors of police brutality. I underlined that, unspeakable horrors of police brutality, and identified it as word choice. I said that's important word choice because he could have said other things, but he wanted to paint that picture. And you could even mention some imagery in there. He wanted to have that power with those words. Again, he says, we can never be satisfied as long as our bodies, heavy with the fatigue of travel, cannot gain lodging in the motels of the highways and the hotels of the cities. I highlighted in yellow a lot of that, and I said that that was imagery. He wants people to envision these people who can't get a hotel room. They're exhausted. Their bodies are worn out because they maybe have demonstrated, they've marched, maybe like Little Richard, they've been traveling the country, but they cannot get a hotel room. Okay, again, we cannot be satisfied as long as the Negro's basic mobility is from a small ghetto to a larger one. Imagery there. You can picture that. You can move from a smaller place to a larger place, and that could sound okay. But when he's referencing a ghetto, you're exchanging one ghetto for another. And really, are you doing any better at that point? We can never be satisfied as long as our children are stripped of their selfhood and robbed of their dignity by signs stating for whites only. I underlined that and said word choice, but selfhood. If you pause and just think about that word, and I could write a whole separate paragraph even on this word selfhood. What does that mean? In this case, he's saying their children are being robbed of who they are. They don't even know who they are as little black children, and he's going to reference this later on. They don't even know who they are because they aren't allowed to be themselves. So then he says, we cannot be satisfied as long as a Negro in Mississippi cannot vote and a Negro in New York believes he has nothing for which to vote. I put that as logos. I said all the previous was all pathos because it's talking about people and what they can and can't do. But here's logos because he's giving factual evidence. They either can't vote or they can, but they don't really know what's going on to vote for. They haven't been given the options there, or there's no good option. So then he says, no, we are not satisfied and we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. Right there, that's an allusion to the Bible. Paragraph 14. He says, I am not unmindful that some of you have come here out of great trials and tribulations. So 2 pieces of rhetoric in there. Not unmindful. That word choice is very important, I think, because it's an emphasis to say, first of all, 2 negatives. Not an mean, I know some of you have come here out of great trials and tribulations. He's saying, I know that, but that's not as impactful as saying, I am not unmindful. So pointing that out is helpful there. And then trials and tribulations, as I noted, that's an alliteration. So trials and tribulations, both starting with that T sound. Some of you have come here fresh from narrow jail cells. Imagery. You can picture that. They just got out of jail for something that possibly shouldn't even be considered illegal, and they came straight here to Martin Luther King at this time. And some of you have come from areas where your quest for freedom left you battered by the storms of persecution and staggered by the winds of police brutality. I pointed out that there's word choice in there and that there's a metaphor in there. You have been the veterans of creative suffering. Continue to work with the faith that unearned suffering is redemptive. So redemptive, that vocabulary word, means it can be fixed. Keep the faith that this can be fixed. He is offering them hope. Go back to Mississippi, go back to Alabama, go back to South Carolina, go back to Georgia, go back to Louisiana, go back to the slums and ghettos. First of all, I didn't underline it, but I'm going to point out every time he says go back to, that's an anaphora. He's really adding that emphasis there. Go back to those places and go back to the slums and ghettos. First of all, it's imagery and it's him acknowledging their reality. He knows where they came from. Of our northern cities, knowing that somehow this situation can be changed. Go back to anywhere that you came from. I know all of these places are horrible, but believe that change will come. He is offering them hope. Again, Martin Luther King is not offering violence. He's not suggesting or encouraging violence. He is trying to fill people with hope that if they persevere, things will get better. We cannot turn back. That's what he said at the beginning of paragraph 12. Okay, paragraph 15. Let us not wallow in a valley of despair. I say to you today, my friends. So, word choice. We don't sit and wait. Don't just sit there and wait, he says. It's also a metaphor. That word valley, the valley would be the injustice. Don't just sit there in despair and injustice. Move past it, he's saying. All right, let me try to go to the next slide. Okay. Let me move myself down here. Okay, so let's keep going. Paragraph 16. And so, though we, again, a repetition, face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. So, I have a dream. I underline that and you're going to see why. I have a dream, paragraph 17, that one day this nation will rise up and live out the truth of its creed. So I underlined I have a dream again. He is offering them hope. And then here we go. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. That's an allusion to the Declaration of Independence. Paragraph 18, underline, I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down at a table together at the table of brotherhood. I highlighted all of that because that's both imagery. You can imagine what that would feel like and be like for them. And it's also pathos because that is a persuasion for the people and the emotion to fill in there. Paragraph 19, again, I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, there's your vocabulary word, will be transformed into the oasis of freedom and justice. I underlined, I have a dream. Those are anaphoras. You're starting to see that repetition over and over. There's your anaphora. And then it's also an antithesis. You can see here where I underlined the heat of injustice sweltering with the heat of oppression. And then, so that's the hot, the negative, and transformed into an oasis, a happy place of freedom and justice. That is your antithesis. Those opposites are adding power to what he is saying that they want and they need and they feel are absolutely their right to have. Down paragraph 20. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, by the content of their character. So I noted that that was pathos. His dream, his emotion, his feeling for people, his family, and then content of character as an alliteration. And of course, there's the I have a dream. That's that repetition of that phrase, another anaphora. Paragraph 21, I have a dream today. Paragraph 22, I have a dream that one day down in Alabama, with its vicious racist, with its governor having lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification. I'm going to pause right there. Vicious racists, I put as word choice. You could really pull that apart and explain those words and what they mean to the civil rights movement, what they mean to Martin Luther King, what they mean here in this speech, what their value is. And then where it says his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification. So right there you have some imagery, but what is all of that referencing? If you look down there at the bottom underneath of that line where it says number 3, this is where it says they're trying to reject federal civil rights legislation. They're dripping with the words of interposition and nullification. They're trying to reject the civil rights movement. Okay, let's keep going. One day, right there in Alabama, there you go, just the top here, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I highlighted that for imagery. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, every hill and mountain shall be made low, the rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight. And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all the flesh shall see it together. Okay, this is our hope, and this is the faith that I go back to the South with. I'm stopping right here. I went a little bit into tomorrow's text because I wanted to connect those last 2 I have a dream anaphoras to the previous. So you are going to head over to Schoology, go to this week's folder for April 8th to 12th, and then you're going to open the I have a dream summarizing worksheet. It's page 5 to 6 in a packet that you would have had printed, but on here, of course, it just references page 263. So in this, I'm going to go over the directions. Make sure you are listening right now. If you're not ready to listen, let's pause the video. Okay. I know that yours might look slightly different than mine because I'm in the teacher editing version. So I have a dream speech by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It starts with summarizing. So after you have just listened to me read it, now you're going to individually go back through this and read and talk to the text. That does not mean you are having a loud conversation. That is the dialogue that you have in your head where your mind is thinking and talking to itself about what you read. And if you followed along with my annotations, then you have no problem. You have already talked to the text as you followed along. So paragraphs 16 to 25 is what you're focusing on. And that's where I stopped reading. And then as you read, notice ideas that seem important and ask yourself, what is this section about? What seems important in this section? So take a few minutes, complete just that top section. What seems important and what's it all about? We've already gone through it. Take these ideas and turn them into a summary. Think soapstone. You don't have to hit every single point, but most of those points should be in there, okay? After you're done with this, actually pause this, and then when you are done with this, we'll go on to the next part. Okay, now you're ready to go on to the next part of this. You're going to talk to the person beside you. You are not walking across the classroom. You are not talking 3 or 4 people down. The person closest to you, if you're a group of 3 in the middle, that's okay. You can talk to the people on both sides of you only. Partner conversation. Share your ideas with your partner. Use the T-chart below to separate the main idea from the details. Now, this is what we've been working on in class previously, so this should be getting easier for you. Please make sure that you stay focused on just this page and pull evidence from the text to prove what is the main point and what is a detail that supports the main point. At the bottom, it says go back and review the main ideas and details. Make adjustments by asking yourself, what parts or details seem to keep coming up or standing out? 2, what do you think the author is trying to say? And 3, is there a lesson to be learned or an inference to be made? Okay, pause it here while everybody is working. All right, if you are now ready to go on to the next section, it's back to individual work. So after your partner conversation that you just had, you're going to take a stab at writing a summary. What is this really all about? Limit yourself to no more than 20 words. This should not take a very long time, 3 to 4, maybe 5 minutes, but 20 words, valuable words. Don't fill your line with nonsense. Pause it here while you work on that. Going down to the last part for today, small group. So again, by small group in this case, I want you to focus on just the partner beside you. And if you're in a table group of 3, there's your group. So share your individual summaries with your group, with the other person or people beside you. Together, you're going to come up with 25 words. So now you are merging their thoughts and your thoughts. You're going to draft them out in this top space. And then once you think you have drafted, now this is where you might cross things out. I would not do a whole lot of erasing. Just cross out and then try new ideas. Because I just realized because this is typed, you'll just need to just keep typing below. Don't spend any time backspacing and all that. Anyway, down here at the bottom now, you're going to come up with that perfect 25-word summary. That's it. You'll submit this when you are done.